and they have suffered in ignorance, lack of knowledge for generations. So our dear listeners, our dear friends, we must have a general dislike for some principles that we find among ourselves. This has moved our zeal and the approbation of our conduct. When the love for development has made us resent and publicly declare against the anti-education tenets that lots of societies, communities, educational facilities have adopted, we need only to beg you to give you a true belief and to add to your belief honor and integrity, that you must appreciate the role of education in all things, the constant daily attendance to learning, the joy with which you have accepted knowledge into your hearts, your houses, the great and highly merited concern that we attach to education. How long is all of the world going to be away from experiencing proper modern education? Together, I know not, but what I know for sure is that we will work hard till the promise of proper education has reached every hook and cranny, every place in need of good education. The excellency of education can be sanctioned in those developed and underdeveloped societies. A choice that can be easily made by everyone who observes in order to encourage us to move towards achieving proper and useful education. It promises everlasting joy, development, and happiness to the good. And it gives painful, everlasting misery to those that lack of it thereof. On the one hand, it's in favor of life, the act to improve the livelihood of people, and on the other hand, it's in favor of poverty, suffering. And one will imagine that mention of the dangers and consequences of lack of education will draw people to the duty of administering proper modern education. Great minds have from all ages reminded us about the value of education, using very powerful notions to try to remove us from ignorance and lack of education and knowledge with very powerful persuasions. The promise of development is so agreeable to the wishes and desires of mankind that all who call themselves educators wholeheartedly believe that they are doing the right thing. Yet, however, there is something so shocking in the consideration of generational backwardness some societies experience. There is a difference in an endless duration of generations in dejection and backwardness and continuous growth and development in education. That educators can see that it's not a substance of their strong desire for development, that a generation of poverty and hunger awaits the uneducated in the future state. We shall at this time insist on the proof of this path as one of the reasons of our conviction and endeavor to make good the fact that exists that uneducated or those that do not give proper education we'll have generations of poverty, lack of industry, mass malnutrition, hunger. Not considering the word as they stand in the relation of the text, we should resolve what we have to say into a general proposition that those that lack proper education will suffer for generations. Before we make good of the statement, I want to believe that all capable of learning, and that one is able to gain, fully add to the society, to provide the necessary livelihood for himself, and without it, one is not able to join the global economy and add very meaningfully to himself and those around him. I also believe that you accept that very proper and adequate education, that the works that we learn is able to guide us to success, lead us to a life of happiness and fulfillment of desires, and that it has been since the ages that education has been the biggest motivator for a society to develop, advance, and remove itself from poverty and hunger. I take it for granted that you believe that schools, education facilities are important to achieve good, adequate, and proper education. And there are people that are very vital in the educating of the society in form of teachers. And there are institutions that are very vital in the education of the society in form of schools. These assumptions are required for us to proceed to make good the things that are present in this discussion. That the suffering that is meant for the educated or the poorly educated, if not handled, will last for generations, and they shall go away into continuous hunger. The first argument, that the suffering that is meant for the uneducated and poorly educated society will last for a long time. Education itself has proved for itself that it is so. The evidence is seen very clearly in different societies of the world today that this is true. To start naming society that will be proof of this will be endless, but let us suffice to mention but a few from history. In Mali, when the first university in Africa, University of Timbuktu, was made, we hear of a period where education was widely accepted in the region. This led to huge economic development. In the same period, we learned of the acclaimed richest man to ever live, Mensa Musa. When the school experienced a downturn, war, pillage in the region turned the attention of the people to other things, leaving education to suffer and die. We can say Mali is yet to recover now after hundreds of years. While in other societies, where their leaders did more to have education, develop them. For example, after the Korean War, South Korea was left devastated and impoverished. However, leaders like Park Chung-hee recognized the importance of education in rebuilding the nation. Park implemented educational reforms that focused on universal access to education, investing very heavily in infrastructure, teacher training, and curriculum development. As a result, South Korea experienced remarkable economic growth, transforming it into one of the world's leading economy. known for its high quality education system and skilled workforce. We see great minds that have cried out about the suffering and horror of those that are continuously ignorant. Break down in this moving obstacle, enemy, foe, who can dwell in generational sufferings. The present day is fuller with this point. It shows us in a clear light the importance of proper and good education. We see the examples of society. China has made significant investment in education to fuel its economic growth and development. The country is focused on expanding access to education